Hi everyone, I'm Marcia. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I'm going to be doing some code wars, and I want to talk about some ground rules before we continue. So this video is for JavaScript learners, specifically newbies. This video is not for somebody that has had a little bit of experience with JavaScript. If that is you, I would recommend to skip this video and join us for another one later. I made this video for the 100 Devs community, so that is why I want to make sure that is very realistic to what you'd see on the job. Codewars is something that I really struggled with. It took me weeks to finally get the hang of it, and it wasn't until I did this method where I just picked the very easiest problems and then worked from easy to medium to hard and committed them to memory, like 5 problems at a time. I don't think it really clicked for me, so that is why I'm making this video, because it took me weeks, and once I finally developed this method of studying my code wars, it finally clicked. Like, instead of taking weeks, it took only a couple of days for me to understand something. So that's why I'm making this video, because I really struggled at code wars, and it is so important. I think I saw these questions pop up in almost every technical interview that I did, or come up on the job in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I'm really excited to go over these. I'm going to be going, so more disclaimer, so I'm going to be going into great detail on these problems, so that's why I say this is for people that have probably never seen JavaScript before, never coded before, and also sharing some extra tips and tricks. That is why there's only 5 questions that I'm going to be going over, and I really think it's important that these are committed to memory, so yeah, those are my ground rules. This is definitely for people that are beginners, and that's why I made it specifically for the 100 Devs community, and without further ado, let's go and solve some code wars. Thank you so much. We'll be providing all the links below in this video, but right now I want to show you how to filter. I think a lot of people don't understand this when they first start with Code Wars. So when you go log in, you can sort by most completed, select your languages, and of course click on the status and progress of if you've seen them before or not, and you want to sort by difficulty. The higher the number, the easier it is, and you can even sort by what types of problems you get. I didn't get this at first, and that's what made this very confusing, so that is why I am showing you this right now before we go into our first problem. This is a very easy debugging fundamentals problem, so as you can see, we're going to have to fix what's wrong with this, and I want to briefly go over how to comment stuff out on Code Wars. So easiest thing you can do is just highlight everything and command / on Mac, or in general, just remember that for JavaScript, you can just do it by hitting the / button twice, like I just did on the screen. If you have a PC, it's Control and /, so just keep that in mind as we go along. So what is wrong with this problem? It looks good, it does multiply like we expect, but we need to have a return. So I think this looks right. So to figure it out, you hit the test button, you see if it passes, obviously it did. Highlighting their test cases, so this is what they use to test whatever you put into Code Wars, in case you're wondering. Alright, it says we did it correctly, and it gives us a chance to refactor. I like to do this, solve it multiple ways, so I just copy what I have and then comment it out, and I'm going to change this up and add some parentheses. I think it's really good to try multiple ways, especially when you're starting out, and then when you feel comfortable with what you have, you can hit the attempt button, as you see right here, or submit. Provide some honest feedback, which is really good because sometimes some Code Wars questions are just ridiculous, and my favorite part is seeing how other people have solved the same exact problem. I think it's so cool. Ooh, they use the arrow in this case, so I mark that as clever, and it looks like these guys did something that I did. Oh, this is interesting. But this is why I love Code Wars. You get to see how other people approach it. Alright, it looks like in the second problem, they want us to give the opposite number. So that means
the opposite sign. So if it's a positive, they want us to give us a negative, and a negative becomes a positive, as we can see right here. I'm going to introduce the prep method, which is going to make you a superstar technical interviewer. It stands for parameters, returns, examples, and pseudocode. The parameters in this problem is a number, any number. Now we're going to go talk about returns. So they want the opposite sign of the number. For examples, I usually like to take out of their test cases if they're any good, or in this case, I felt more comfortable just grabbing it straight out of the question. So my example that I used is 14 should become negative 14. Now for the pseudocode portion. So I'm thinking in this case, what we should do is that we should take the number and multiply it by -1. So I'm going to start with return, and I'm going to take number and multiply it by -1, just like I said. And return will make it pretty much happen. So let's test it out. Looks like it worked. All right. So my next move now is to see if I can do this in a different way. So my other option that I'm thinking of is I'm just going to get rid of the -1 and put some parentheses around number and then just put a negative in front of it. And I think in math rules that will work out for me. And let's give it a try. Oh, looks like, oh, I put a 1 accidentally. There we go. Just the negative. That's all we wanted. Perfect. So as you can see, when you fail, it lets you know very quickly where you messed up. Well, not where, but it lets you know very quickly that, hey, you didn't do it right. Let's skip to the results. I think this is an important one to learn because I feel like I'm always asking or getting asked to do the opposite of what data that I'm seeing. For the third problem, we're going to reverse some strings. I feel like I'm doing a lot of reversing sometimes, or just string manipulation, and I think this is a very nice introduction into string manipulation. So let's do our prep method. So parameters, this is stuff that is coming through this function. That's going to be a string of any kind. That's what that str or str is. The return, they want us to return the same string, but it's now going to be reversed, as we can see here. And I'm just going to copy that example that they give us of world, and we just want the same thing back, but totally reversed. And now for the pseudocode portion. Oh, wait a second. I'm glad I looked down at the sample test. We want to return an empty string if it's empty. So that is a good detail to know. I don't think it'll matter in this case, but this is why I say pay very close attention to the examples. And this is why the prep method is so great. But for this problem, I want to solve this without using anything fancy. And when I mean fancy, like no using any methods that are built into the language. So yeah, we're going to be kicking it old school. I think it's important because sometimes they do ask you, solve this without using any methods. So we want to set a variable called reverse str to empty to start off. Then I'm thinking we're going to have to loop through the string. And then after we loop through the string, I'm thinking we take the elements in the loop and then add them to that empty string, and then in the end return reversed str that we set to empty originally. All right, let's code this out. So we're going to declare that variable let reversed str equal empty, so have the empty string. I also think in the beginning it's really good to take your pseudocode and just move it to where you want, and that just creates good habits. And when you are interviewing for real, you would be saying this stuff out loud, and it really shows how good of a communicator you are. And I've just found that most hiring managers, they love it, and best of all, if they're really nice, and if you're nervous like I was and you make a mistake, they'll be nice enough to correct you because they are following along instead of you just typing and they don't know where you're going. So for this loop, we're going to do for, and then we always start at 0, especially as a beginner, and we want it to stop at the length of the string, so that's why it's str.length. And then the iterator, we want to go up each time, and then we add some curly braces to actually go on ahead and do what we want to do in our loop. And in this case, we want to take every single element in the loop, and we want it to get added into reversed straw, which right now is empty. So let's figure this out. I want to have reversed straw. That's where I want it to go, so that's what I'm going to start off with. And then I want to take straw, because that is what's getting passed in, and grab each element. And I do that with these brackets and with I. So that means it's grabbing like every single WORLD. And then when I add it, I wanted to add it to reverse straw backwards. So that's why the element is first, and then it's plus reversed straw. And then obviously we gotta actually return it in the end, and that's why I went outside of the bracket, or else in JavaScript it won't run. Let's give it a try. Yes, it worked out for us. That is great. And like I said, we should get into a good habit of trying other ways to solve this. And oh, I hit submit. Looks like it passed multiple other tests, so I'm very confident with this. So I'm just going to copy this stuff. I know it's a mess, but this is good to start, especially when you've never done this before. And we're just going to paste it, and we're going to try another way of solving this. Okay, let's do this what I call the fancy way, or using stuff that is built into JavaScript. So I'm going to return strut, and I'm going to split on pretty much every single space. So we're going to split, and then we're going to use reverse, and that'll reverse everything, and then the join will join it back up based on the space. So that is what that does. If you don't know what I just said, you need to go to the MDN, Google, use ChatGPT until you fully get what that does. And it looks like it definitely works according to Codewars, so we're going to hit submit on that and see how we did. Alright, check it out. Looks like other people are also using the same thing. Ooh, I like this one. This was cool. That one looks very similar to how we did it, just they use their counter a little bit different, as you can see. And I think that's really clever, but maybe not something to do when you're first learning. But this is why we love Codewars. You get to see how other people are doing this, and I think it just makes you better. Alright, on to the fourth problem. They want us to return only negative numbers in this situation. Okay, alright, I'm checking out the examples, checking out the way they're testing it. Alright, so no matter what type of number goes through here, they want to see a negative one. So we're just going to get right into it. So they're going to have numbers go through this, and for the returns, they want to see nothing but a negative number except for 0. Okay. Alright, check that out. Looks like 0 is the only one where it doesn't come back negative. Which makes sense, because that's not possible. Alright, so we've got our examples there. I think we can pick pretty much anything we want. I'll do the 1, so if we get 1, we should see a negative 1 back. So if we get a positive 1, it should come back as a negative 1, and if it's a negative 5, it should be coming back as a negative 5. Alright, so pseudocode. This is what I'm thinking. I am thinking that we pretty much need to differentiate when this happens. So if it is above a 0 or greater than 0, we want it to pretty much take the number and multiply it by -1. And then everything else, it doesn't really matter. We just want it to return it as itself, because if it's not greater than 0, If it's less than 0, then it'll just be giving either 0, which doesn't have a sign, and then everything else is just going to stay negative. So that's what I think we should do. Oops, I forgot. It's -5. It left it as +5. So let me correct that, and I think this is enough to start coding along. All right, so if the number, so num in this case, is greater than 0, we want it to return num times -1. Or, in this case, negative num. That would totally work. Else, so anything else, I just want it to return itself, num. And look at that. That totally works out. Love it. I'm also going to introduce something new in this problem. So I'm going to take the exact same thing that we have, and we're going to make this a lot cleaner, or as we like to call it, dry. We want to make it dry, and that stands for do not repeat yourself. So how can we make this more dry? So this is called a ternary, so we're going to return num when it's greater than 0, and this question mark pretty much just says, hey, when that condition is met, it's going to return the negative num, and then when it's not, it's just going to return the num itself. So this is a ternary. I think this is something you need to have committed to memory, and like I said, Google if you don't understand this. And look, it totally works. So we're going to see what the solutions are. Looks like a lot of people did what we did, except for this math.abs. I think that's really cool. And I think I'll try that the next time I solve that. All right, for the final problem, this is even or odd. And I don't know what it was for me in my interviewing process, but I swear this problem just came up everywhere in multiple variations. So I added it to this, and this will always be burned into my brain, and I hope it burns into your brain too. And once again, all these problems that I went over, you should be able to just pretty much not even think. It should feel like 2 + 2 = 4 to you. So if you're wondering how well you should know this stuff, that's how well you should know it. Okay, so in this function, it's always going to be numbers, but always ask your interviewers if it's something else, because actually in one of my interviews when I had this, they did tell me, oh, there's going to be like strings in this too, and you're going to have to filter them out. So this is why prep method is so important. You got to get these details from your interviewers before you just go on ahead and assume and code along. So, all right, they want us to return even or odd, and in the example, I'm just going to steal from their sample test here. I think it's 2. They want even back. Totally makes sense. So for our pseudo code, so if even, it's going to give us even. That's what we're going to return. So if the number is even, after we check it, it's going to give even back. Now, anything else that doesn't meet this condition, we're going to want to return odd. All right, I think that's enough to begin coding along for this. So first things first, like we said, we're going to check if number is even. How do we do that? We use something called modulo, which is the percent sign for 2. So that means if it's divided by 2 and there's no remainder, so that's what that equals 0 is saying. That is going to be the thing that we use to check if the number is even. And like we said, we want it to return even if it meets that condition. And then if it doesn't meet that condition, so anything else, we're going to put an else in there, and we're going to say return odd. I'm going to close up my space here, but I'm pretty confident about this. We're going to go on ahead and submit this, and we're going to also try and make this problem way more dry, or I guess solution way more dry. I'm going to do a ternary for this, so we're going to return when it meets the condition that we said. So when number modulo 2 = 0, And remember in JavaScript that you need to do equals equals or else it assigns it as a variable. And then even because it meets it, and then odd when it doesn't. We're going to go on ahead and submit it. All right, and I'm not going to show all the solutions. I'll let you look that up on your own. But I want to show something pretty cool or interesting or something that actually helped me when it came to doing Codewars. Open up your browser. I suggest Chrome or Firefox. Right click, click on Inspect, and I want you to copy the solution from the last one. Go to console and hit paste. You might have to like type something like allow paste the first time just to give you a warning. But yeah, this is where you can be fun. So I want you to pass an argument. So you're going to type even or odd. You can hit tab to make it automatically do it and just start throwing in some numbers. And look, it's fun. Like even numbers give you even and odd numbers give you odd. And then I tried something a little bit crazy. I decided I was going to pass a string, zebra or zebra. If you know, you know. And look at that, it returned odd. And that makes sense because we said anything that wasn't an even number, we would like odd back. So I put high in there. So really have fun with this. I think this really helped me enjoy Codewars instead of dread it. So that is my fun tip to you. Optionally, you could use VS Code, and I highly suggest pushing this solution to GitHub, but I'm not going to go into using Node and running it in VS Code today.
So thank you so much. If you want more videos like this, please comment below and give suggestions. I do have a Python video that's going to be coming up that will be covering these exact problems. So if you're looking for another language, I'll be going into that. But yeah, hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much.